the MBT-70, the KPZ-70, and the XM803. They're all the same tank, right?
Wrong.
For simplicity's sake, we'll give XM803 the boot and focus on the MBT, the KPZ, their minute differences, and the history behind them. 1963. The height of the Cold War, the Soviet Union was quickly modernizing their arsenal of main battle tanks. The US recognized this and devised a solution to create a new main battle tank that was standardized for NATO allies to replace aging M60 and M48 patents, all in an effort to combat the influx of new Soviet T-62s and T-64s. To do this, they enlisted the help of West Germany, who at the time was also looking to upgrade their own Leopard 1s and replace their patent tanks. This resulted in the creation of the MBT-70 project, with meetings kicking off in West Germany in 1963 led by US officials. Bureaucratic nonsense plagued the project from the get-go. Progress was slow, and a prototype wouldn't be unveiled until 1967, at which point each nation was already set to add its own design changes to their respective vehicle, meaning standardization will have been pointless, and by 1970 the program was cancelled. In War Thunder, this means that the US and Germany both get versions of the vehicle, with the MBT-70 for the US and the KPZ-70 for the Germans. Unfortunately for everyone, one thing that was agreed on was the mounting of the 152mm XM150E5 gun launcher system.
That's quite big. Impressive.
Although this is a substantially larger caliber than the 105mm L7A3 mounted on most NATO tanks at the time, the weapon system had its downfalls. West Germany had an issue with the fact that it only utilized shillelagh missiles along with heat rounds, as they preferred a more traditional armament and requested that a kinetic projectile munition be developed, which resulted in the piece of shit, XM578E1 APFSDS round. A 152mm APFSDS round on paper sounds great until you look at the specifications and realize that it's really just M735 in disguise. A much worse version of M735. This would be okay if the vehicle was 9.0, as the round can eat through most armor, but situated at 9.3 you get a lot of up tiers, and at 10.3 you start running into the Abrams, T-80s, Leopard 2s, Challengers, and STRV-121s. But enough complaining about the main armament, as one of the features that is nice is the 20mm Rheinmetall 202 cannon mounted on the roof, which is great for dealing with light targets, helicopters, and planes. We can't talk about the weapon systems on this vehicle without also discussing the loading mechanism. Both designs utilized an autoloader, but each had a different reload speed. The MBT-70 was able to fire every 7.5 seconds, and the KPZ every 6. The reason for this was a disagreement between nations, as the Americans saw their design as more reliable and simpler, while the German one, being faster, was a bit more complex and could only reload while stationary, which obviously could cause some issues in the heat of battle. Moving on to the survivability. Although it doesn't have the best armor, the crew layout is something that will throw the average player off. Pictured here, you see the crew layout. As you can see, there's no driver. Just kidding, he's actually sitting up here in his own quirky little turreted cupola. So, when the gunner traverses the turret, the driver is always looking forward, which also had a cool effect in real life where the driver would occasionally get motion sick because the entire turret is moving around him, but he is not. In War Thunder, this just gives the vehicle some artificial survivability when taking shots to the hull because it's just empty space. These vehicles share the same top speed of 64 kilometers an hour and a transmission that is capable of reaching that top speed, going both forward and in reverse. They also share a hydropneumatic suspension system that allows the vehicle to drop it low, throw it back, raise it up, or whatever else one would ever want to do with their suspension. There's only one minor difference to note, and that's the engine and the horsepowers. The Americans opted for the Continental Motors AVCR 1100 diesel engine, which pushed out about 1,475 horsepower. Yee. Whereas the West Germans opted for a Daimler-Benz V12 engine that pushed out around 1,500 horsepower. Because German engineering might be better? No, that's not right. Before I continue, I wanted to come back to the XM803. In 1970, after the fallout of the project, the US still wanted to get something out of it. So, in an effort to make the vehicle cheaper, they swapped out the hydropneumatic suspension for a cheaper and more robust one, as well as the 20mm cannon for a stabilized 50 cal, and swapped the engine out for a cheaper variant producing 200 less horsepower. Ultimately, this failed, and now you can play the vehicle in War Thunder, where it sits at 9.0 instead of 9.3, which means you get a much kinder matchmaking experience, as you don't have to deal with all of the traffic at 10.3, and 10.0 USSR teams, although scary, aren't impossible to deal with. In War Thunder, an important factor to consider is lineups. At 9.3, the German KPZ has a ridiculous lineup, as it can be backed up with the T-72 M1, Big Light Panzer 57, Leo 1A5, and the M48 Super, all of which can hold their own at 9.3. The American MBT-70, on the other hand, only has the IMP Chaparral at the same BR, and then you have to bring in a premium XM1 or up tier the XM803. One thing that can't be overlooked, however, is the CAS options. The best, in my opinion, even though it sits at 8.7, is the A4E early, as you can bring in a whopping 5 bullpups, which is dangerous as long as you don't run into any missile AA.
You can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yo, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single.
Considering everything that I've already discussed in this video, if you really want to play one of these vehicles, stick to the XM803 or the KPZ-70. The MBT-70 just doesn't have a lineup around it, and sitting at 9.3 you're going to get up tiered a lot, which isn't going to be fun. But the KPZ-70, on the other hand, at least has a full 9.3 lineup, and the XM803 has the advantage of having a better matchmaker, on top of a lower BR to bring out the A4E. Ultimately, it's your decision, whatever you do to have fun. With that, I will bid you adieu. I hope you guys like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.
I'll catch you on the flippity flip. Bye.
Hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range, 'cause I grind.